An in-development Skyrim multiplayer mod, called Skyrim Together, is facing criticism for seemingly taking code from another Skyrim mod, though the developers themselves argue that the code was only present in the prototyping stages of development and has been removed, while the accusation has not branched into a legal threat of any kind. Taking code from another project without permission or attribution is the kind of thing that is will land developers in hot water, both in modding scenes and full-fledged game development. A now resolved case between Bethesda parent company ZeniMax and Fallout Shelter developer Behavior Interactive over allegedly stolen code used in its Westworld mobile, for instance, is a recent example of that. The dispute spotted by Eurogamer this week was brought up by Skyrim script extender Ski. Ian Patterson in a Reddit post now says that code sourced from Ski can be found throughout Skyrim Together's inus. In the post, he says that the loader itself is SKSES load, with all the options filed or found the error messages changed, and that other lines of code found in the mod's DLL is a pretty clear copy. You can just open their DLL in Notepad, then search for Ski to find tons of hits. Patterson told Eurogamer. After the post went up, I was able to examine the loader source code and found it was exactly as my analysis showed. It was code copied directly from Ski, with some very minor modifications. The team behind the Skyrim Together mod, whose Patreon recently jumped from $2,000 to $25,000 in pledges a month, meanwhile issued an apology in their March developer report, noting that code from prohibited libraries was in use. Those usages have been removed and any associated code is being reworked. There is no excuse as to why this code has remained in the code base for this long, and was distributed without credit or acknowledgement, reads the apology. Going forward, we will do our utmost best to respect the Ski team and their work and ensure the license request is maintained in the long run. Other issues have since arisen surrounding Skyrim Together, both involving its creators' past conflict with the Ski team and more recent concerns that a $25K per month Patreon takes the project into the more dubious area of paid third-party mods. Two topics discussed further in the Eurogamer story. Following in the wake of last year's Fixpan campaign, the team at PwnCorp has published a post on Steam exploring how it typically fights back against the cheaters, and some of the different improvements planned to its anti-cheat efforts. Admittedly, the team says they will not fully outline what they have been doing since giving away too much could undermine those very efforts. But even still, the post offers fellow game devs a look at what the team behind the landmark Battle Royale game does to combat the ever-present threat of cheating. Each game of Pong sees up to 100 users trying to beat already incredible odds, reads the post. We understand that even one person playing unfairly can severely impact the fun of so many people, and this we need to maintain a much higher level of security than other games. The Pong team says that it uses a variety of anti-cheat protections, like Battle Eye and Cheater to detect cheat attempts, but that they have also turned to machine learning recently to spot cheats by analyzing the behavior of individual players. They have put together a system that notices abnormal game patterns, actions that interrupt expected game processes, and identify hack users. Based on that data, they started issuing hardware bans late last year in an effort to curtail repeat cheaters. But note in the full post that the process itself can be a delicate one and they take extra precautions to make sure PC cafe machines are not unfairly impacted. More recently, however, the team has started detecting and banning things like metro mice, and, eventually, other peripherals that the team says give people an unfair advantage over fellow open players. The first chapter of Glenn Parsons' The Philosophy of Design is dedicated to the definition of the word design. Parsons goes through many iterations, finally arriving at design is the intentional solution of a problem by the creation of plans for the sort of thing. I liked this definition at first, but began to grow wary when I thought about how game design fits within it. Most of it fits my intuition quite well. The primary verb of game design is certainly planning. Most of us strive to make as new a sort of thing as we can, given the constraints of hardware, budget, schedule, physics, and imagination. But while we certainly solve many problems as game designers, it's difficult to think about a game as embodying the solution of a problem. What kind of problem do games solve? As an educational game designer, I am trying to solve pedagogical problems, and many other serious games attempt to solve, or at least alleviate, problems in the world. There are citizen science games which tackle concrete research problems. Fundamentally, though, what problem does a game solve? Too much free time, not enough software to sell proprietary hardware. There is an argument to be made that games solve the problem of fulfilling psychological needs in their players or their creators. By this logic, you would have to art and design together, as the arts are usually associated with primarily being of use, inasmuch as they are able to alter their audience's state of mind. You might be willing to stop there and say that game design is a misnomer, and game designers should instead be called interactive artists or some such. I certainly have some sympathy with this view. I find game design to be very creative in character. But not all creativity is art. There is something about the practice of game design, especially when done in collaboration with the team, which seems more like the design of a chair than like painting on canvas. The constraints are more palpable, the purpose more distinct. Perhaps the definition is still insufficient. Note, the resolution of this conflict, I believe, comes with the realization that coming up with the initial idea for a game is indeed not a process of design, but rather an artistic one. Everything that comes after that is the design part. We are solving the problem of how should we make this. The idea may be a theme, a story, a genre, a feeling, a mechanic, or any combination thereof, but we will always need design to support and realize that idea. Think about it by analogy to the design brief that industrial or graphic designers are given. We need a logo which embodies the dependability of our company and which can be used in a monochrome letterhead. This is not a logo, but is part of the idea for one. In game design, the distinction can get quite muddied, as we are usually not presented with game ideas by the client, but rather by some part of our own team, or our own mind, and therefore the process of settling on an idea and the beginning of the design process blend into one another temporarily. Skeptics of this notion might argue that this kind of artistic invention happens all throughout the process of game design stories, visuals, music, so why should the initial idea be privileged in this way? I would respond by saying that additional artistic invention act primarily as support for the initial idea, rather than artistic objects in their own right, in the way that additional constructions may be necessary if a geometric proof or floral carvings might give a chair a more old-fashioned character. Taking this to its conclusion, One might say that Michelangelo's painting of the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel may be, in fact, an act of design, insofar as the guiding vision behind the project was not an affecting image which depicts God's relationship to man, but an awe-inspiring chapel, and the painting exists in service of that. I find this realization very freeing, because, though I enjoy the ideation process and of course I have more game ideas that I could execute in 10 lifetimes, it takes the pressure off the designer to create ideas that fit their team. Those ideas can and should come from anywhere.